it's Ina the Mood Reader, and today we are going to talk about the rest of my April reads, plus, of course, my favorite part, the reading statistics. First of all, if you can see the wind effect here and also hear some buzzing noise in my audio, it is because it's so hot. I just actually took a shower. My hair is still drying out. It's just so hot and I couldn't film without the fan here. It would give me a headache and it also would make me feel uncomfortable. So I hope you understand. If you're from the Philippines, I know you can relate. It's been very hot lately. And also, of course, just watch out for any background sounds there because you'll definitely hear some. The chickens would sense that I'm filming. But yeah. Anyway, I know I did a video on the arcs I read for April. But I still have a lot of books to tell you about because April is actually my best reading month so far for 2021. I was able to read 20 books this month. So, if I'm not mistaken, I talked about 10 books in the last video. Today, I'll be talking about another 10. We'll try to make it a little bit shorter and breeze through the books. I can't promise because I usually rave about books I like. You know that already. And then I'll also be showing you the graphs and the charts that I like to do every end of month. So let's get started. So in my last arc April video, I forgot about one arc I read last April, and it's this one. It's Sugar and Spite by Gail D. Villanueva. I loved the arc so much that I decided to get myself a finished copy. This one is worth $864 from Fully Booked, a Filipino bookstore. It's a hardcover copy. It's all sealed. I haven't decided yet if I would be giving this away or if I would keep it to myself because I also won another copy of it from a giveaway set by the tour company where I did the blog tours. So yeah. But anyway, this is a middle grade book. We have these characters. Jolina and Claudine, and we also have Kidlat and the cat that I keep forgetting the name. It's a really good book. It's about magic. It's very Filipino. It's flowing with Filipino culture, and it's also about family, friendship, self-identity, being brave and courageous, staying true to yourself, and accepting who you are meant to be. Aside from that, this book made me cry a lot. There was a plot twist that I didn't see happening, or I actually saw but didn't want to happen. And it did, so it broke my heart a lot. This book made me cry, surprisingly. Don't let this fluffiness on the cover fool you. Books don't really have the power to make me cry most of the time, but this book definitely did. So yeah. So the tagline of this book is, "Can a dash of magic turn a bully into a bestie?" So it also touches on bullying. So yeah, I really love this one. It would always have a special place in my heart. So I definitely recommend 5 stars, of course. So I just forgot that, but it's another arc I read for arc April. So I ended up with 11. Now let's start with the other books. The first one I got here is Where I End and You Begin by Preston Norton. It's a contemporary romance fiction with, I guess, touches of magical realism. So if you are a fan of body swapping books or movies, this one would definitely satisfy your cravings, because in this book we have Ezra, who is a little anxious, and he has always had a crush on Imogen, who is a nerdy girl in school. Imogen has a best friend, Winona, and then Ezra also has a best friend who's always with him, Holden. So there's this belief in their town. There's a solar eclipse happening in their town, and they just wanted to watch the solar eclipse. And if I'm not mistaken, when they went in their school to check out like the best spot for watching the solar eclipse, they bumped into each other. And then on the night of that total solar eclipse, what happened is that Ezra and Winona switched bodies. So it's very Freaky Friday-ish. But the twist in this body swapping is that it happens randomly every day. So this type of trope has been done so many times in films specifically. I haven't read much about it in books. I was expecting to be confused and bored at the same time, but actually the author did a really great job in delivering the body swapping type without confusing the reader. You would only be in the point of view of Ezra all throughout, and every time they swap bodies, he calls Winona becoming Ezra as Ezra. So you're still on track, you don't get lost. And there are many themes discussed in this book, and one of those is like having compassion and empathy towards each other, because we really don't know what another person is going through, no matter how close you are. And that's the harsh reality of life. Like, everyone's going through something, and how they react to it really is their business. You can't really weigh on what a person is feeling and how they are reacting to something. And in this book, Ezra and Winona discovered parts of each other that they prejudged before, and understanding everything about that. And then the other thing that I was surprised that this book touched on is actually sexuality and gender identity, or just your own finding your personal identity and your best true self. Because as Ezra and Winona kept swapping their bodies, they also had this realization about themselves. So the author really did a great job overall on those things, especially as well on the family dynamics as well as friendship, aside from the romance aspect of it. Overall, this book was really a refresher to read. It delivered something I honestly can say I have never read before, but that's just because I haven't read much. But still, it was amazing, and I really enjoyed the journey. I listened to this on script via audio, and the narrator really did a great job in delivering the message of this book. So I rated this one 5 stars. The next book I read was Siri, Who Am I? This was by Sam Shida, and I also read this one as an audiobook. I think this is a 2021 release, and unfortunately I give this one 1 star. If it wasn't actually an audiobook on script, I would have DNF this book. It was very ridiculous in a way. Just to give you an idea, this book is an amnesia type of story. Basically, Mia woke up after an accident, and she doesn't remember anything until the Siri assistant on her iPhone told her her name. And then, even though she has her phone, which is an extension of our lives, her internet persona is very private, secretive. Even her contacts and everything in her phone really doesn't give her an idea about who she was. And of course, she finds out that she doesn't like who she was before, and she becomes a different person now after she loses her memories. So This book has a mystery type of thing where she tries to find out what the kind of person she was back then, and how it, you know, reconciles with who she wants to be. There's also a romance aspect to it, but I don't know, it was very ridiculous. The character was very immature. I don't know if it's the amnesia or, you know, she is supposed to be a woman in her maybe late 20s to early 30s, but I felt like I was reading the mind of a teenager that's so whiny, and I don't know, the lots of things that happened in this book is ridiculous, and I didn't really know if I liked it. It read like, you know, the chick lit of the early 2000s or maybe earlier than that, and I'm not sure if it's something that I'm still up for or should still be written during this time. It was I mean, I did had a good time, I guess, listening to it just to pass the time, but I really didn't like it a lot. So it was cringy, and just overall it was maybe just not the right book for me. So I gave it 1 star. It's followed as well by another 1-star read. This time I read Even If We Break by Mariki Nishkamp. I'm sorry if I did again the wrong pronunciation of the author's name. I actually read 2 books from this author in April, and this was the second one actually. This was a recent release in 2020 September, and this book was pitched as a shocking new thriller, let me read, about a group of friends tied together by a game and the deadly weekend that tears them apart. 5 friends go to a cabin, 4 of them are hiding secrets, 3 years of history bind them, 2 are doomed from the start, 1 person wants to end this, no one is safe, are you ready to play? So basically it's pitched as a cabin in the woods type of thriller where there's a group of friends who have been playing this role-playing game for 3 years now, but an incident a year back changed their relationship, ruined their friendships, and before they graduate high school and before they part ways for college, the creator of the game and her friends their friends decided to like have one last hurrah of playing the game. So I really had high expectations for this one because as you know, I'm a big fan of YA thrillers, but this book I think was very confused on what it wanted to be. There are lots of parts of it that wanted to be a contemporary realistic fiction book that talks about very important social issues. There's a part of it that wants to be a romance book, and most of the time it forgets that it even wants to be a thriller. There's a lot of internal monologues, there are a lot of flashbacks, there are a lot of things revolving around the characters, and really less about the thriller part of the book. And that made the book very draggy. The pacing was all over the place. It's very hard to keep up on who is speaking because there are many points of view here. So, you know, at the beginning it really sounded cool, but eventually I felt really lost. All the characters were very one-dimensional and flat. Sometimes they kind of blend into each other that I don't know who I'm reading about. And I think the bonus part of this book is it has good representation. We have a trans character and a non-binary character. We have a character that's neurodivergent and a disabled character from a former accident. And that's actually a surprising diversity of characters, but unfortunately they weren't able to shine as good as they probably could have if it were written better. I mean, the book really had great potential to deliver a good message, a good story, but all in all it became confusing and boring because a lot of things were very repetitive and it all blurbed together into one big brown goop instead of something very colorful. So 1 star. The next book is the pick for Rakes and Petticoats Historical Romance Book Club, the one that I co-own. And we read one historical romance book a month. So if you're interested, please hit me up on Instagram at ynathemoodreader or just comment here. And yeah, for April, we read Romancing the Duke by Tessa Dare. It was our first pick ever, and we really had a great discussion. I think there were 8 of us who talked about this book on a video conferencing app. And then yeah, so Romancing the Duke is my first experience on a Tessa Dare novel. I know many people rave about Tessa Dare because she writes good romantic comedies in a historical manner. So this one is from her Castles Ever After series, and this one was about Izzy Goodnight. She is a daughter of a famous author who wrote about fairy tales and children's stories. Who it was like pitched as her dad making goodnight stories for her, and it's published that way. So she also in a way became very famous because she is a recipient of the stories from her dad. So when he passed away, he wasn't able to leave a good will that would assure that she has something. So she's very piss poor, and then she received a letter that she inherited a castle, and then when she goes to this castle, she meets the Duke. What's the name of the Duke? Ransom. And Ransom is very brooding. He is actually blind because of a duel for a person he loved before that he fought for. So yeah, and then Izzy wants to claim her share of the castle, but Ransom insists that it was not a deal he approved and he is still the owner of the castle. And then Izzy just decided that she wants to stay there. She knew what she wants, and she also became like the secretary of Ransom, who would read his letters for her and respond to letters. And they also tried to discover what happened, why the castle was sold, and everything about that. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this book. Romancing the Duke is very fun to read. There's a lot of banter, and we really had a like strong and independent heroine. She knows what she wants and she fought for it. She's not your like timid, virginal, shy character. And at the same time, our brooding hero wasn't too annoying. I still liked him. Even though he's very hard-headed and a little sad boy. I loved it when they started, embracing the attraction that they have for each other. I just don't know, I really liked it a lot. I actually have a lot of notes and highlights on this book. Overall, it's just very fun, and it's the type of historical romance that I really enjoy. So yeah, I gave this book 4 stars. So next we have This Is Where It Ends by Marieke Nijkamp again. This one is way better than her other book. I think this was the author's debut novel, and it was published in 2016. It was awarded it was a New York Times bestseller. It was BuzzFeed Best Book of the Decade and a Pace Magazine Best Book of the Decade as well. So this one actually revolved around a school shooting. So basically here it says, everyone has a reason to fear the boy with a gun. In 54 minutes, 4 students must confront their greatest hopes and darkest fears as they come face to face with the boy with a gun. So I rated this book 4 stars because I listened to this on audio. It is a full cast audiobook, and I wasn't confused at all compared to how it felt like reading her other book. This one was very concise, and it gave me different points of view of people who are involved in the school shooting, people who are actually there on site, people who are directly involved or have direct relationships with the shooter, and also people who were near the school, students of the school as well, that was in practice and wanted to help and care for their friends who were stuck inside the school. I mean, yeah, overall, I think this one is a very powerful, and what do you call this? A very powerful way to tell the story of a school shooting. It's very full of suspense, and it's very emotional. Yeah, personally, I haven't experienced a school shooting yet. It's something uncommon here in our country, but I know it's very common in the United States. And I personally don't know how people would react to this portrayal, because of course it's very triggering for many, but for me, this book was a good was a way for me to see another portrayal of encounters like this one. I think I've read a handful of school shooting books already, and they give a different attack at every time. Overall, I appreciate the author taking time to design a diverse number of characters, and giving different points of view on different people involved in a school shooting. A lot of the scenes here made me really anxious and nervous for the characters involved, and when a book affects me that way, it really gets a high rating for me. So that's why I gave this book 4 stars. The next book I read is Girls on the Verge by Sharon Biggs Waller. Basically, On the Verge is a coming of age story about that touches on discussions on abortion. So this is a fairly sensitive topic, and it's also very polarizing. I think this book also got that impact as well from the audience. So I have to agree that this book tackled an important topic that's not usually touched on in young adult literature, and it gave young adults part on both sides of the story, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice. And I think it's a very controversial topic, and it's a topic that needs a lot of discussion. But yeah, this book touched on birth control, protection, feminism, and the power that politics plays over the different regulations and future regulations for abortion per se. So yeah, I appreciated how educational this read was for me. And the thing is that Girls on the Verge really touched on real life examples, specifically towards the author's note. She really took the time to discuss why she was very passionate about getting this book out there. And yeah, it also corrected many myths and propaganda being spread about birth control, safe sex, and abortion, and how we should treat people in general. So yeah, this book is very powerful. It gave some thought-provoking ideas, and I guess the only thing I wanted was a little more justice for many of the themes touched on this, but for now, I'm giving it 3 stars. The last book I read for April was Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. I listened to the audiobook of this while I was also watching the Netflix limited series, and I have to say that the Netflix production did a really good job in adapting this book into a limited series. It was actually very, very similar to the book, which was a surprise, and it was really, really good. So, this book is about Louise, who is a single mom, secretary in a psych office. And then when on a rare night out, I'm just reading the synopsis here, she meets a man in a bar and sparks fly. So she felt a connection with this guy, but surprisingly when she arrives at work, she meets her new boss David, and he was the man from the bar, but he was married. And then eventually Louise also bumps into Adele, who's new to town, who wants to be her friend, but she is the wife of David. So though David and Adele look like a picture perfect couple, there's something very, very wrong as well about the marriage. And Louise found herself entangled in the marriage of Adele and David as she develops relationships with each of them, and it's going to be a whole confusing mess. And let me just say, the ending of this one was something I didn't expect. What a way to surprise the reader. And I think that thrillers always have to give a shock factor. This book really did give me one. And though I'm not sure what I really felt about the ending, the plot twists, and the theme this book revolved on is very interesting, and overall I'm giving it 4 stars as well. And if you're not up for reading it, I suggest you watch the Netflix show because it's really, really, really good. Now let's go to our statistics. We're almost done. This is gonna be very short, so thank you for still being here. Okay, so for April, I'm very happy with my word count. It's actually 5,747 pages, which is a definite success. So yay, I'm so happy about that. The average rating that I gave for April is a little lower than usual. It was at 3.8, still very high, but that's what you can expect with me. So now let's go to the graphs. Okay, now first let's go with the genres I read this month. It's actually a good spread of different genres. I read a poetry book, 5 mystery thriller books, 2 historical romance books, 8 contemporary romance books, 2 realistic fiction books, 1 women's fiction book, and 1 fantasy book. What a spread. Okay, now for the formats read, I read 13 ebooks, 6 audiobooks, and 1 physical book. Now for audiences, I read 8 adult books, 11 young adult books, and 1 middle grade book. I'm happy that I got a middle grade book there. And now for the author ethnicity, I was able to read 4 Asian written books and 15 books by white authors. And for Filipino books read, I was able to read 4 books written by Filipinos. And authors new to me, I was able to read 9 books by new authors. I was able to read 9 books by authors new to me. And for the year published, I was able to read 9 books by written in 2021, 2 books written in 2020, 7 books written from 2016 to 2019, and 2 books written from 2011 to 2015, which I think is a good spread. And then for the star ratings, it's a little spread out as well. I read 7 books that I rated 5 stars, 6 books that I rated 4 stars, 5 books that I rated 3 stars, and 2 books I rated with 1 star. And those are all the statistics for April, and that is my April reading journey. So I guess if I were to look back on all of those books, my favorite reads would probably be Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez, Where I End and You Begin by Preston Norton, and Amelia Unabridged by Ashley Schumacher. How about you? What are your favorite books that you read in April? Please let me know in the comments below, and I might just read them sometime in the future. So yeah, thank you so much for watching until the end of this video. See you next time. Bye!